So I just looked at the footage and I realized I didn't have this dead cat on the mic. So if you hear any plosives, those are the wind that goes into the mic when I say like P's and B's. Please forgive me. I'm just trying to throw stuff up here without being so technical and so analytical about everything. All right, enjoy. In this video, I'm going to talk about gearheads and what I believe is their effect on creativity and YouTube as a whole. Now, I would imagine that with any creative art, there are people who are drawn to the actual tools that are used in order to create the art. For instance, if there is like a sculptor, there are people who like the tools, like the little wheel that the clay spins on. There are people that are probably into that, and there's different versions of that, and some are better and some are not as good. Then you talk about painting. There are people who are probably into different brushes and the different qualities of the fibers in the brushes and things like that. I would imagine that there's people like that. Now on the front end, there's nothing wrong with that, because I do believe that sometimes the tools that we use can inspire us. Sometimes they can spark creativity and cause us to go down certain paths that maybe we wouldn't have went down without that tool. So I don't think that enjoying the tool and having a love for the tool is wrong, because there can be some creativity in the tool itself. You know, maybe the way it's sculpted or the way it's made it inspires you, which is great. But I think the problem comes in when people start to put the tools before the creativity. I will say I've heard the argument that you need gear in order to create something creative, which I agree with, but that's on the back end. And what I mean by that is, before you shoot something, first there's an idea, there's a concept that comes to your mind. And then once that concept is realized, you can go out and then use that tool or that gear to go out and shoot it. But let's say you wanted to, like for instance, this video, I said, you know what? I want to sit down in a spot and I want it to be a mix of natural light and I want it to be a mix of artificial light, but I want it to just be something different than what I've done on this channel. That was the thought. I didn't think about the gear. I just thought about the setup, the scenario, the scene. And I think this is the problem with things today when it comes to gearheads, is the gear is starting to replace the thoughts. Whereas we're thinking about the gear first, and then we're relying on the gear to cause us to have a creative thought. And that simply is not working. At least I haven't seen it working that well. Maybe I'm wrong. I want to classify the different types of gearheads, because not all gearheads are the same. The first one I'll start with is the old head. This person has been around or in the game for 15 plus years. This person is used to dealing with a certain type of technology, whether it be tapes, corded microphones, and these people are generally opposed to anything new. I don't care if it's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or batteries that are in things like lights. They just have problems with those sort of things, and they look for issues and they look for reasons not to change what they're used to. Now, that's okay if those people are that way, but when they get on YouTube, what can happen is they start to teach people who are getting into the craft how to think. The problem with not adopting things is the fact that technology is moving so fast right now. If you have a mindset to say, I don't want to learn about what's new, in 6 months, literally, you could be totally behind on some new tech that actually is changing the whole game. I know some people hate that word game changer, and I just said it. I'm sorry, folks, for those that hate it. But there are a lot of things out there that are changing the way that we do photography. A good example of that are cell phones. I think of the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I had a video there. And in some of the comments, some of them I deleted. Some people are like, you're an idiot. There's no way in the world that this phone could be compared to any camera out there. And I'm like, that's just not true. It's not. This phone shoots ProRes 10-bit 422 log footage, and you can get some really good stuff out of it. But because of their mentality of, well, nothing new is any good, they will never grow past that. And that is one of the type of gearheads I think that's very detrimental to your growth if you're new, and is detrimental to their own growth because they're going to be stuck where they are. And that's unfortunate. The second type of person I want to talk about is the person who lacks experience. The person who lacks experience, especially on YouTube, is the type of person who may be in a lot of contact with gear. Maybe they are sent a lot of gear, or maybe they read a lot about gear. However, they don't have the experience actually outside of YouTube shooting in a setting like an event, a wedding, or something like that, to actually gain a deeper understanding and knowledge of things. Now, I'm not against people who aren't there yet as far as experience, because we all have to start somewhere. And I'm all for people learning new things, and we're not going to know everything. But I will say, when you're in a position of authority and you're in a position of selling people things and you don't have the experience of actually shooting, I think you're doing people a disservice. And the reason why is because sometimes you're going to be recommending gear that you don't know how it's actually going to perform in the real world. You're in a controlled setting. You're only with it for a short amount of time. You're not using it day in and day out. So you can't really speak to the quality. You can't speak to the actual use case. And you can't really speak to if this thing fits somebody's needs, because you really don't even understand what someone's needs are until, I believe, you're in that position to actually shoot. Perfect example, if someone is shooting an event, I'm going to tell them one of the most important things is going to be batteries, your battery life. Make sure you have batteries that are good batteries. And I'm not going to tell you just to buy some off-brand battery. I'm going to tell you stick with the OEM battery, because in my actual experience of shooting over time, over years, I have bought the off-brand batteries, and I can tell you that they do not last as long as the OEMs. Now, every once in a while, you may have some outliers, but for the most part, if you're serious about your footage and if you're serious about what it is that you're doing, stick to the batteries that the manufacturer makes. If you're talking about batteries that are directly in your camera. Now, if you're talking about V-mounts and things like that, that's different. But those things like that. So somebody may review a battery and say, yo, this battery is really good. It's got more watt hours than the stock or the OEM battery. So this one's better because it looks better in specs. But you're not speaking through experience. You're speaking through specs. And I think that's the problem with gearheads who don't have a lot of experience. And I'm not hating on nobody. I'm just saying, listen, be careful of the people who don't have things to show. The last type of gearhead is the know-it-all. This guy prides himself in knowing just about everything when it comes to cameras, codecs, memory cards, anything technical. This person has dedicated their lives to making sure that they know everything about the technical side of things. And this whole person's MO on YouTube or even in real life is to poke holes in the credibility of people who actually shoot. Now, I don't know why they need to poke holes, because with their knowledge, if they took that knowledge and they went out and shot, with that together, they would be some of the most dynamic people on the earth. But for some reason, these people will not, they will not go out and shoot. In fact, there is one YouTuber, I won't mention who he is. I don't even know if he's around anymore. But this guy knew so much. He was just like he had a repository of information in his head. And it turned out like he was taking people's photos, and it was just a bunch of crazy, weird stuff going on with the guy. I don't know the guy, so I'm not going to talk bad about him. But I will say that what I saw just didn't make any sense to me, because had that person took all of the knowledge that he had and applied it, he probably would have been great. But he just never shot. He said he shot, but nobody saw any of the work. Nobody ever saw it. So I think those people like that are the type gearheads that run the comment section. I recall a time I made a video and I was saying something about lighting, and I think I said I said that CRI was color rendition index or something like that, but it's color rendering index. And it was like 3 a.m. And if you've ever made a video before, then you understand how your brain is sometimes just fried, because you're not just talking about the information, you're thinking about the camera settings while you're talking. You think about the microphone levels, you're thinking about the video, the SEO. There's so much more to making a YouTube video than just throwing a camera up and talking. Some people have it naturally, but some people have to work at it, like myself. So he said, I think the video was maybe like 10, 15 minutes long. And his only comment was, CRI is not color rendition index. It's color rendering index. And that was his whole comment. And I just thought, you're right. But it's just one of those things where, what did that do? What did that accomplish? And I think, again, some of these gearhead, this type gearhead gets there, and this is just speculation, but this type gearhead gets their validation from showing others that they know more than them, or that they can point out somebody's faults. And I think that's a detriment to the creative world, because we all have faults. And the more you put yourself out there to be creative, the more mistakes you're gonna make. But with those mistakes comes experience, and you get a chance to correct those mistakes, and you get better and better and better and better, to where your knowledge on a certain thing doesn't matter anymore. It's your experience that gives you the best knowledge and information, because you don't have to be super technical to be creative. As a matter of fact, some of the most creative people are not technical at all. They know what they want. They just don't know the technicality behind what they're doing. So those are my three. Let me know what you think about this. It was just something that popped up in my head. If you can think of any more type of gearheads, post it below and let me know, because I just want to have this conversation. I'm not trying to come at nobody. But anyway, I'll holler at y'all later. I'm out. Peace.